You are listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network.
وتلمين هناك لشوارشتايجر.
Pegarle el Ronaldinho Gaucho. Ya lo hace. Pierna derecha, directo al arco. ¡Golazo! 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 ¡Golazo!
This is Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio, your new live show about the beautiful game in all its glory, with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee. MLS, EPL, La Liga, Champions League, all is fair game. Powered by the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us at sportspodcastingnetwork.com.
So, Kevin,
Yes.
I'm eligible for a British passport. I've never bothered to get one because, I'm a Canadian and I'm happy here and all that sort of jazz. But I always thought in the back of my mind that one day I might go ahead and follow through with that. And
Is that day June 23rd, 2016?
Yeah, so maybe because I'd have freedom of movement. I could work at all these countries and have all these brilliant opportunities. I always envied them for that.
Yeah, not anymore. That's done.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter now. So I might as well just stick with what I got. I'll be happy to join the EU and be able to work freely in all these different countries around the world. That'd be amazing. I've always Anyway, so it's not my position to really have a vote or a say in such a decision that was made in England and Britain last night. However, I can have an opinion, and I think that you've made a foolish mistake, folks. But that's okay. That's okay, Kevin.
I had a lot of mixed feelings about it too. I have to say I've been staying up pretty much all night because of this Brexit situation in England, watching BBC. Actually subscribed to BBC and watching BBC was my night. And, the feeling I got during the night was pretty much like this.
Yeah, we don't want to get...
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to get too political because we're a sports show and we're a distraction, but
it's not even political. We don't say remain or leave. It's just the whole situation. I think Pandora's box might have been at least cracked open.
Yeah, we don't need to go more tribal in this world. That's what I'll come at. And when you see violence around the world and terrorism around the world, I think closing our doors is only going to make that worse. And that's my take on it. I'm a progressive liberal. I fully wear that in this country where I am doesn't make me weird. It would make me weird in some other countries, but here it's just where I stand. So I'm not going to make this political though anymore, but there are some football implications which are relevant to this show. So I thought that it would be worthwhile to explore those a little bit, Kevin.
It is kind of weird that it's going to take a while, but whenever this Brexit situation is taken care of and resolved, and we'll see, it leaves the world of football in a weird state because, well, with the European passport, you were able to move and you could put your allegiance different. It meant you could play and be counted as a domestic in a different league that you're not going to be anymore. Is that status going to change? It's so complicated. I know you did a lot of research to make sure you grasp the situation.
Yeah, and look, the TLDR of it, too long didn't read, in case you don't know what that acronym is, if you haven't been on the internet ever before, is this. It's the biggest immediate impact is likely has to do with currency. And we're watching that right now, and we're seeing the pound on a free fall. If anyone's going to England in the near future, buy the pound today. It's at a 40-year low or something. It's $1.77 Canadian, $1.23 American right now, the last I looked. So that's crazy low if anyone's bought them recently. I bought them like 5 or 6 years ago for $2.20 Canadian. So there you go.
The last time the pound was this low, Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of England. Well, UK.
Yeah, the UK. I was saying England, Anyway, because
exactly.
I'm English as my heritage, not British, but anyway, that's the biggest fact. They have European TV deals that are literally dropping. They're literally getting less valuable as we speak right now. Obviously, a lot of the players right now, they're paid in British pounds, so they're if they live in other countries, the ones that are currently right there, their money, their take home is dropping. Just as the same impact. Those of us listed in Canada will understand this greatly because we had the same issue with our hockey players recently, and we've seen how that has affected the Canadian National Hockey League teams, right? That they basically pay out in US dollars and they're getting their money in Canadian dollars, and that creates a problem that has to be addressed. And there's certain things that are similar in that effect. So that's easy to think of that way. But I mean, what most people are interested in, Kevin, is what it means for transfers. The Bosman effect, the Bosman ruling is no longer, well, once they negotiate the exit, will no longer apply in England. That is the biggest whoa that comes out of this. That's the ruling that allows players to move at the end of when they're free, when they have no longer in contract, that their former clubs could not hold any of the rights, couldn't restrict them from moving on. That will no longer apply because it's a European law. Now, I think the folks in the UK are going to be smart enough about this to not change how that works and maybe create their own rule. You think that, but the potential is there that they may not, and they may try and play hardball and roll the clock back to restrict player movement again. And that would be something that would be devastating, I think, to the league if they were to try and do something that dumb. But you never know, because I don't trust sports owners sometimes to not do dumb things.
But yeah, it was funny because yesterday on Twitter I was reading a lot to a reaction of, example, Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, we're gonna get an English team back. Oh, our club right now would not even be eligible to play because of the rules and all that." What I'm wondering, Duane, and you're probably going to be able to answer my question, is where does that domestic rule and the passport situation of players now affect how and where they can play in England or in other leagues, if they can or can't? And I know there's a lot of situation that young players been discovered and grew up in England and then they're considered homegrown, which won't be the case in a lot of situations like this.
Yeah. I think the first thing to say is, like, there's obviously, whenever something like this happens, there's going to be hyperbole is going to be the name of the day for the first few hours after. And the idea that some big, guiding hand is going to sweep all of the foreign players off of your Arsenals, your Man Cities, your Man Uniteds is that's fiction. That's not going to happen. The players that have work permits right now will maintain them. The players at those large clubs that have the work permits are generally big players that would qualify for them even if they weren't EU. So they're coming in. Sorry, they didn't need work permits before, is what I'm saying. They'll have to get work permits now, but they'll qualify for them.
By the way, Yedlin just got a work permit a few weeks ago, so that answers that question. If people were wondering what's Yedlin going to happen with him in London, nothing.
Yeah, the same with even Daniel Henry, guys like that. They're already on their permits. They've been approved. So that's not going to change. Now, what will change is how you recruit players. And again, this is not necessarily going to impact the Premier League clubs as much as it will the Champions League clubs and below, and certainly the Scottish teams, because they're going for a different type of player in those leagues, right? The Premier League clubs, big clubs buying big players, that's still going to happen because those big players are going to qualify for the work permit because they are demonstrably of a quality that has always allowed players to, like, we're familiar with it over here because that's what North American players have to do to get into the Premier League. They have to qualify for the work permit. So most of the players that we're talking about in those big clubs would easily meet that criteria. So there's not going to be a change there. They are going to have to go through the process. There will be a bit of a delay in the signings now. Once the negotiations to leave are done and all that, and we have to keep that in mind that they're still technically in it right now. They just voted to start the negotiations to leave. Yeah, so that's not going to change in any immediate way now. But like I said, when you're a championship team and you're trying to go in and find a player that maybe has a little bit more value, that you think has a lot of potential, you're going to run into trouble because if that player hasn't played X amount of games with his national team, and I believe it's 75% is what that number is, you're probably not going to qualify for a work permit. So you're going to have to wait until that player has proven himself at an international level for that country and hope that the country is good enough too, because there's different rules for different teams as they relate to what their FIFA ranking is. And we understand that here in Canada because Canada's ranking's been so bad for so long that our players really struggle to find work over there sometimes. I think that the other thing that it might impact from a North American perspective is that you might, from just in general perspective, is you might see more movement for players at that level, those young up and coming kind of players. They might just choose to go to Germany or to Spain now or what have you, because the English situation is just too complicated and they wouldn't want to bother with it if they can just go straight in as an EU passport into those countries. So they're going to lose out. The most glaring example is a player from the past that I can tell you that came up in that situation as an up-and-coming player from Portugal that wasn't really that well known, that signed with Manchester United. I think you may have heard of him. It's a Ronaldo or something like that player. Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously, a player like that.
Yeah. Was it the guy who missed the penalties in the Euro this year?
Yeah, but he probably wouldn't have qualified at that time because when they signed him, he wasn't an international. Wow. So you'd have to wait. And then, by the time that they are internationals, then certainly it restricts the ability of clubs to be clever. You know what I mean? Like you can't, if you're a smaller club and you have to go out, and that's one way you could close the financial advantage that the big clubs have over you is to have better scouting networks in places like Africa and Eastern Europe or what have you, and go into those countries that have, the ability to bring, I shouldn't say Africa because they're not in the EU, obviously, but like places that were in the EU, to go in and find players there that you thought you could mold a little bit more and make into class players that you would either then sell on and to make your club profitable, or that you would, use to make your club more successful in the pitch. That advantage for those smaller teams is gone. And what it will mean, I think, I'm interpreting this here now, this is speculation, is I think it's just going to make that gap between rich and poor even greater now, is what this will do.
It's fascinating what a political decision like this can have on a sporting level. And we'll just talk about soccer because we're on soccer today, but of course it's going to have other ramification anywhere. But for the soccer per se, what's going to change? I'm wondering if it over the next 5 to 10 years is going to mean more English players in the Premier League to maybe a lesser quality, because you can't actually be able to have better players come in the league as much as in the prior past. I don't know. What is the ramification, for example, the England, the Northern Ireland, the Scotland national team? Scotland might actually come out of this is another story altogether, but yeah.
Yeah. No, certainly that's the other side of this. And something that, I'm of two minds of, as anyone who knows me knows that I'm an advocate for quotas in Canada for the Canadian MLS teams to be increased to force the teams to play more Canadian players, because I believe that that's an important part of making the Canadian player pool stronger. And I understand that there will be people that will be happy with the idea that being able to get less EU players into England will mean likely that more English players will have an opportunity to play. And I think that's a natural thing that might happen, and particularly at the championship level. I don't think it's going to change. As I said, I'll reiterate this one more time. I don't think it's going to impact the large clubs all that much, because they're going to continue doing what they do. And they're going to continue to use their money to get whatever they have to do to get in. And so I don't think it's going to change that much. But yeah, I do think that it will have an impact on younger English players, younger British players having an opportunity that maybe they were squeezed out. Like maybe a player an English player that might have been forced into, say, League Two before might get an opportunity in the Championship now, or League One or something, right? Like they might just bump up the levels because there will be more spots around there for them. So it makes sense that everything is going to go up. But then if you look at that, what that will do, one of the great things about the English pyramid is how strong it is all the way down, like all the way down to the fifth tier almost. You have fully professional teams that are, pretty successful on their own right. And it might impact, like, you think about it, if you're taking players from the bottom and moving them up, the bottom is going to get worse. So that might have a negative impact on some of those hyper local teams out there that are gaining following. So lots of implications down the line. I think Scotland's an interesting one too. If you look at the impact of them right now in the Scottish Premier League, is it's going to completely make it almost impossible for them to bring in foreign talent, which is going to make that league even weaker than it already is. So teams like Rangers and Celtic probably aren't very happy with this, because they're already finding that their ability to compete in Europe is getting increasingly more difficult, and it's going to be even more so now that they're restricted in their ability to bring players in, and they don't quite have the same financial might as the big clubs in England. That said, if Scotland were to pull, and then become part of the EU, then that could flip around, and suddenly maybe that might be a blessing in disguise for the Scottish Premier League, that it might then have an advantage over the smaller English clubs, and it might actually raise its level up a bit. But we're really speculating that, because that's relying upon these situations happening, and Scotland then pulling out of the UK.
And that's going to take like 5 to 10 years for the league to grow and for the players to take the opportunity that were in the Barclays Premier League to take the ones in the Scottish Premier League. So yeah, it could take like decades. Rangers have time to go back down before.
I don't think that'll happen anymore. They're back up now. We're stuck with Old Firm derbies for a while longer now, I think. Exactly. All right. That's about all that we have. This is going to be a long developing story. And I think the Bosman, that one is the one that you need to watch out for. That is the biggest shocking change to this. Again, I think the common sense will prevail, and they'll create their own solution to this. They'll make their own rule that'll be UK based. But as of right now, once they negotiate it out, it is a wild west when it comes to player movement in that way, like player movement when they're out of contract. So hopefully that gets resolved, because I don't think anyone wants to see players movement restricted. We get frustrated with it in MLS when teams hold the rights to the teams and force trades and force sales and things like that. So we see it firsthand. Hope that doesn't happen over there. All right, let's take a quick break, Kevin. We'll come back. We're going to have a little fun with this. We're going to have our own exit debate about who we're going to vote out of MLS and Canada and US soccer.
You are listening to Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio. Visit sportspodcastingnetwork.com for more.
We're back. Kevin, I thought that we're not going to try and make this personal. Don't worry, guys. But I thought it'd be kind of fun nonetheless to be a little mean and have our own little referendum right now on North American soccer, on MLS, on the NASL, whatever we want to talk about, and vote some people out. Because why the hell not? We can have some fun. It's a Friday. Let's start with MLS, Kevin.
By the way, I want to say again, thanks, Grant. It's Friday. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Grant. Yes, we do appreciate Grant giving us Friday every week. Kevin, who are you going to vote out of MLS? We had a referendum. Your personal referendum. You're voting one person out of MLS, or one thing, or one aspect, or one
team, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So he says you go first, and then tell me why, and then I'll give you mine, and then we'll go from there.
There's one team that's been not the bane of my existence per se, but one team that I've been looking at closely over the last few years, that I've been thinking, geez, they need that famous reset button. They've been looking for it for years. They can't find it, and maybe that firecracker need to explode for something beautiful to grow in its place. Yes, Chicago, I vote you out. Get out of my island. That's you. My tribe has spoken.
All right, so you voted the Chicago Fire out of the league. Are you going to allow them to go be Peter Welt's NASL team or something like that? Or
maybe not. I don't know. But yes, I do feel that this city of Chicago actually right now deserves better.
Chicago does deserve better.
Look at the Cubs. It might be the year.
I worry about that. I'll tell you why I worry about that, because I used to have a soft spot for the Boston Red Sox up until they won the World Series, and now they're the most despised team I can think of in Major League Baseball. Their fans completely lost the plot. I'm a little concerned about Cavs fans for the same reason. After you have a long break, you suddenly become obnoxious. So I'm a little worried about what would happen if the Cubs actually were to win, Kevin.
Hey. The UK have voted to leave, and the Cub might win in the same season. Folks, 2012 wasn't right. Maybe 2016.
There you go. All right.
The end of the world. Yeah. I mean, you figure that out.
Yes. Okay. I do agree that the Chicago Fire, they need a jolt to the system. Maybe voting them out of MLS in our own self-relegation would be a good thing to do. So I'm going to move to my MLS vote out. It's allocation.
What did Al do to you? Come on, don't be mean to Al. What did he do to you?
I
Why you
am
say
so
it's not
sick of
personal?
GAM and TAM and allocation orders and all these stupid rules to restrict player movement and force parity upon this league. It is time for the league to take the training wheels off and let clubs be clubs. Yes, I know that puts me on the side of some tinfoil hat people out there, but nonetheless, I think that, and I'm in Toronto, and I appreciate that Toronto has a financial advantage, but I don't care. I wouldn't care if I lived in a small market. I think it's better for the sport to have the ability for clubs to have their own distinctive personalities, and for there to be dominant clubs and for there to be clubs that struggle and maybe play in the middle sometimes, but like might rise up here and there. I think the North American market and the money that would be spent on this would not get to the point that you would have huge disparity like you see in Spain. I don't think that would happen. There won't be a Barcelona that evolves. So let the market reign here. Let us go out, get rid of all this stupid allocation stuff, and just be a football league.
Seems fair enough to me. That way, you can have clubs growing, and yeah, no, it's a very good vote.
All right. Let's move to North American soccer in general. So this could include the NASL, it can include the USL, anything like that. Just excluding MLS, who are you voting out of North American soccer?
Oh, that's a good question. I am voting out a player, and I'm actually forget his name, of course. Vasek. He plays for the Rochester Rhinos. I forget his name, but every time he plays against the FC Montreal, he scores a goal, sets up a couple, and he's the FC Montreal killer. You know who I'm talking about. You're out of there. The one player for the Rhinos, Vasek. Forget his last name. Too many people in my mind right now, but you're gone, Vasek. I decided that you are going to quit. You're going to go back to the PDL or somewhere and leave the FC Montreal alone.
Okay. So an individual player, maybe you can be nice. You don't have to vote him out. You vote him out of there. He could move up. That would be good. That would be good for him. Like put him to a higher
put him in the
league.
NSL, whatever that means.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
This is who I'm voting out, and I don't think there are many people. Well, there will be some people that disagree with this strongly, but the vast majority of sane people won't. I'm voting Ted out. I'm voting Ted the hell out.
I figured that was going to come.
The tinfoil army needs to relax, have a beer, maybe reflect upon things. And I understand that I just got done saying I want allocation and all that stuff out, but that's different from not understanding the economic realities that the sport works under in this country and in these countries.
You don't want different. Doesn't mean you want Ted.
Yes, exactly. From constantly harassing people over a very obscure thing. Can you imagine if you're just a general sports reporter and Ted comes at you? What the hell would you even do with that? Like, it wouldn't even make any sense to you. It's just this crazy guy yelling at you about promotion and relegation. Oh my God, yeah. And I've had him muted for years because I couldn't handle it any longer. I tried to follow him for a while, but yeah, I think that we'd all be better off if the pro-rel truthers were gone. They're crazy. Like they're not stable. Sorry if you're listening up there. It's not so much about liking promotion and relegation and dreaming about it one day happening. It's about this idea that it's somehow this conspiracy to hold back Chattanooga. That's absurd. And it makes me crazy. It makes me insane, Kevin. All right.
I have to agree. And by the way, it's Christian Voleski. So I was not even close, but Christian Voleski of the Rochester Rhinos. I apologize. Nothing personal outside that you just keep scoring against the same team over and over and over and over. So you're gone.
All right. Let's go U.S. soccer. Who are we voting out of U.S. soccer?
You let me go first, so I'll go for the obvious choice. Jurgen Klinsmann, gone. Oh. Why? Because as Hercules Gomez mentioned yesterday on the show, it's not necessarily the best structure right now. The opportunities are not necessarily there. So yeah, you need as much as you want to talk about development in the pyramid, it's there, and we want to create and develop great players. You need to let the players that you develop play for your team and the young ones and all that. So Jurgen Klinsmann got the boot, and that's without talking about team selection and tactics, non-selection. So yes, Jurgen Klinsmann, you're gone, buddy.
All right, I'm voting Michael Bradley out.
Oh, why? So you can play more for Toronto?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they could play the club team. Yeah, I was going to say Abby Wambach, but I thought that would be mean, and that's
She's
a
got
path
already.
that I don't need to go down anymore. She's retired, so we'll let her be. But yeah, no, we're just going to be selfish about this one and keep Michael Bradley up here. Since the U.S. fans don't seem to appreciate him anyway, I might as well just let him stay in Toronto. That's my position there.
That's interesting. What my other vote that I would take right now is MLS Miami. Stop it. Stop it with this thing. Now the last week, again, new news, quote unquote, coming out of Miami saying, oh, the stadium is going to be a different owner than we expected now. Can you just stop it with this nonsense already? There's not going to be a team in MLS in Miami in the next 1, 2, 3, or maybe 10 years. Here, I said it. So stop it with this nonsense.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's move it. I'm going to end it with Canada, but I'm going to move it international for right now. So we'll start with, we'll say English soccer. Who are you going to vote out of English soccer?
Ooh, vote out of English soccer. Ooh, it's a tough one. And it's a very tough one.
I can
go
go
ahead.
first.
Go first, yeah.
Manchester United.
Well, of course.
Come on.
Yeah.
Just be gone. I mean, the world would be better off. Let's face it.
Well,
we just lost 12
sure.
more listeners probably right there. 12.
I know a couple
200,
people.
2,000.
I know people yelling at their phone right now. What are you saying?
I gotta be me, guys. So there you
Hey,
go.
you can't say you're not.
Okay, I'll be fair. You can still play. I'm gonna vote the Manchester Derby out because I cannot emotionally deal with the Manchester Derby. If we never play it again, I'd be perfectly happy.
Yep. The one I'm gonna get rid of is Roy Hodgson.
Okay.
Because just hasn't panned out. He of course we'll see in the quarterfinals when the knockout. First of all, we'll see in the round of 16 first before the quarterfinals. But for me, I haven't seen an evolution. I haven't seen a move towards the future. They're trying with the Kane and the Sterling, but it seems to me like they're still stuck with the way, look, we got to put Rooney, have a backbone, have a stand. If you want to go for it. And I don't believe that he's the man for the future. In international soccer, if you look at the future is now. So if you don't believe he's the man for the coach, for the job in 2 years, get rid of him now.
All right. World football. And I am going to exclude FIFA as a general answer to this question because we all understand that we should vote FIFA out. But beyond them, anything in particular that you'd like to vote out of world football?
Honduras as a country. Come on. We'll have one more opportunity if they're not there to reach the hex without maybe crying our lives out. So yeah, I would say vote Honduras out.
It's a lovely country. I've been to Honduras.
Sure. Have you ever been to San Pedro
I've been to
Sula?
Rattan, but anyway.
Yeah. Have you ever been to San Pedro Sula? Exactly.
No, I've been to Honduras in the sense that the land that I was standing on was part of sovereign Honduran soil, but it's a different kind of vibe on the island there. But at any rate.
Exactly. So I vote Honduras out and retroactively. So at least on paper, it never happened.
Okay, so we got it out. Let me think here for a second. I am going to vote out ultras. I'm going to vote out Eastern European ultras because, for God's sakes, stop. You're not, the ultra idea is that you're supposed to be passionate about the sport and to give all to the club and all that, and that's okay. And there are groups that identify as ultra that are good, especially here in North America. But right now, that word, it doesn't really mean good things in many parts of the world. So let's reinvent ourselves, find a different term, and not throw chairs at each other in city centers anymore under the guise of ultraness. So that's who I'm voting in World Football, Kevin.
Makes a lot of sense, and I have to back you on this one.
All right, Canada. Let's end with the end in our backyard. Who are we going to vote out of Canadian football?
Finally, this outlaw league that's been running amok of the word of this country in their league name as well for the last too many years. The old CSL is gone. It's done. Stop playing. Teams doesn't exist anymore. It barely does. But we're putting the hammer in the coffin, and it's done with it.
All right. I'm going to vote out those that continue to resist progressive change. That's a very broad answer. I appreciate. I could say something like provincial bodies that are regressive, but by and large, there is a large swath of people in this country that basically protect their own little fiefdoms at the expense of the greater good. These people ignore and work actively against central planning that is designed for long-term player development, for player pathway stuff, for many things. The CSA has its faults, but the CSA is also actively worked against in many cases at the grassroots by people that don't even have good intentions sometimes. Their intentions are often about greed and about maintaining their own fiefdoms. And I want to vote those people off the damn island in the biggest way, because they are continue to hold this back and continue to use the mantra of sack the CSA as the excuse for why we're on the right side. Screw them. They don't know what they're doing. They suck. Well, the reason they suck, guys, is because you keep holding them back. That's who I want off the island.
And you could include actually individual soccer association as well, not just provincially, but citywide, because that's where it starts as well. So no, that's a very good point to. We have to. It's not sag the CSA. It's fix the pyramid. There's a difference.
All right, fair enough. Let's take a break. That was cathartic.
That was very cathartic. I feel great right now, Duane. Jeez, let's go for a run or something.
No, pizza. I might eat a pizza.
Let's go for Timmy's run. There you go.
I might order a pizza after this. If anyone has a pizza that they want to send me, for anyway. All right, let's take a break.
You're listening to Soccer Today on SPN Radio. You can find the on-demand version of this very show on iTunes, Stitcher, Feedburner, Podbay Player, Podbean, anywhere you get your podcasts under the Sports Podcasting Network feed. Subscribe to our YouTube page to make sure you never miss a live show talking about soccer today, the MLS postgame show, open lines after dark, 5 rings daily during the Olympics. Make sure you subscribe and give us a follow on Twitter at SportsPodNet, and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network.
I kind of miss the bumper where you used to rap, Kevin.
We can always bring it back because
Feed burner
back. Yeah. Listen to me flow. Come on, you love it.
Yeah. It's when you say pod burner, that's always gets me because anyway, all those pod catchers.
There's 20 million of them. It's like crazy.
I had to argue with someone the other day that podcatcher was a word.
It is.
Get with it. It's a word.
Yeah. Even though your computer or Microsoft Word tells you otherwise with that little red line underneath, it is a word in 2016.
And trust me, we would know. If anyone's going to know about podcasting terms, I think it would be the two of us.
That and Two Solitudes. Solitudes, yes, it does exist with a plural now. So exactly.
Yeah, well, Two Solitudes shows up as a spelling error too, but the book that it is the name is drawn from was called Two Solitudes long before we came up with it. So I do find it funny that when you do a search for it on Google, we come up above the book now.
Well, it's a question of quantity, I believe. That the word just shows up everywhere. Like, fine, Google says itself, fine, I'll put it first.
There you go. All right, I want to have a bit. This is normally on Fridays, and once we get through the European Championships, and World Cup is almost done, but once we get through this period where we have international stuff flying, we probably will evolve into a situation where we will have our regular Friday and Monday shows will be live for you to listen to, but they will essentially be Two Solitudes and 2S Extra. So Friday is normally our 2S Extra day, and the 2S Extra is designed to be an MLS focused show. That's the idea behind it. Whereas Two Solitudes is a Canadian focused show that talks about MLS within a Canadian context. 2S Extra has always been a show that's just wide open about Major League Soccer, and we're Canadians. We're always going to have a bit of that perspective, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because now like 5 of our listeners finally got that the Two Solitudes name of the podcast is a double entendre as well. It's not just because I'm from Quebec, which, by the way, bonne Saint-Jean-Baptiste, everybody who's listening from Quebec, but it's not just me and you, it's the MLS versus Canada United States, Canada in the league. So, yay, it's been 2 years, but we finally explained it.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what it is. Yeah, and it came to me. I was walking, the pub. I was outside. I was leaving Whistler's, which was my local pub, and I was standing in the corner, and we were talking about when we were launching it, and it just clicked to me, Two Solitudes, because there's Two Solitudes in Major League Soccer, and Kevin and I represent the Two Solitudes of Canada, which is the French and the English, and the historically speaking, and the West sometimes thinks that ignores them, but they're English, so they're part of it anyway.
Exactly.
That was why we called the show Two Solitudes. There you go. Now you know. And knowing is half the battle. All right, MLS news. There's not a ton going on right now. I think we'll start with my favorite topic ever is to become a fashion expert when a strip is released. So there is a strip released today. It's the All-Star strip. How would you describe? Well, I'll bring it up here, Kevin. I'll try and describe it. It's got some striping on it. It's like blue, kind of ocean blue with a little bit of Go ahead.
No, that makes sense. Ocean blue, and there's a little bit of details, like I wouldn't say chevrons, but there's like rectangles of different shades of the same blue that makes a pattern in the background. Of course, there's the AT&T logo at the front, but it's a clean version and it's clean colors. What I mean, it's not lime green like a couple years ago when it was god awful to watch. What's with the all-star teams like NHL, NBA? Go in the lime green neon color. Did anybody tell them that it's not beautiful? It doesn't work well. Anyways, but this kid actually is not half bad.
I think in the case of the other leagues that they try and make colors that no other team has in the league because they don't want to seem like they're favoring a team. But MLS has decided to use blue because it's in San Antonio. It's San Jose. So it's the color of the home team. And I think that's perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with that. I don't know why anyone would. There's a little bit of red on the sleeves. It's not a bad kit. They got the
colors of the MLS, the new MLS logo as well. So it fits really well with that logo, with the crest of it on the shirt, because it's made to be that way. So and if you wondered like the color scheme, it's really like the TFC third kit. The color, the blue, the red, and the white, just in a different
prominent blue rather than prominent red. Yeah,
exactly. But it's the same type of blue.
Yeah.
No, it's hard to describe on the radio. So here's an example that you can think of. It's the same blue that had a small line on the TFC third kit.
There you go. And there's a little bit of it because it's all the rage now to have something on the collar, right? And it's
like a fake. Yeah, it's like a fake collar.
Club country something.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have
country with an S. No, of course.
Well, no, there are maple leaves on they put maple leaves and stars and stripes inside the collar. So that's the only Canadian throwout is that there is that.
Another news, Duane, that came out 2 days ago that we didn't talk about. Yeah, it's ESPN revealed the list of nominees for the 2016 ESPYs on Thursday, yesterday. And there's 5 MLS players and U.S. women's national team star Carly Lloyd are up for the award. You have Jovinko, Laurent Simon, Luis Robles, Kai Kamara, and Carly Lloyd nominated for the MLS Player of the Year. So is Jordan Morris. Actually, it's a Soccer Player of the Year. So Jordan Morris, Laurent Simon, Luis Robles, Kai Kamara, Jovinko, and Carly Lloyd.
And who will win?
Will win probably Carly Lloyd.
Yeah, I would say that there's no doubt about that she will win because the U.S. women are the most popular soccer team in the United States amongst the general populace. There's no doubt about that.
But it's surprising to me that 2 players that play in Canada are nominated by ESPN, Jovinko and Simon. And it's actually quite interesting to me that those 2 are part of this very exclusive club. Only 6 people for 5 with Jordan Morris. MLS players.
Jordan Morris. Okay.
I know, right? It's just I think it's just
one
there
of these
because
things is not like the other.
What did we talk about yesterday, Colin Coward? Exactly. Why is Jordan Morris there?
I mean, Jordan Morris is a fine prospect, and we talked a lot about him in the winter. So I haven't talked about him since, and I haven't really looked at the stats recently. He started slow, but I to put him up with those names, like, come on, guys, like. I could think of like 4 or 5 other U.S. national team players that would make a better choice than Jordan Morris, who isn't even on the Copa team. So how do you put him in that list other than hype, right?
There's no other question than hype, or you want to build him for the future.
Yeah. So
make him a star. That's the old marketing philosophy, right? If you want to make somebody a star, you put his name next to star people. He get the proverbial rub off of it.
Exactly. All right. I wanted to talk about an interesting sort of development to me. Well, because it sort of speaks into something that you see a lot of clubs do, and it's at FC Cincinnati, which is a really interesting story unto itself. And we had a great interview on USL Radio, it was about 2 months ago now, Kevin?
About that.
Yeah, we had a lot of talk about the launch of that club with their PR director. And
Wrong Side of the Pond is the name of the website that he is.
Wrong Side of the Pond. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, you look that up if you're interested. But Cincinnati's in talks with, I guess, Barcelona right now to develop some kind of partnership or some kind of working arrangement, which who knows what the hell that means. And I think that probably what's happening is that the FC Cincinnati owners are trying to take a global brand and just have them associated with it so that they can get a bump locally in the market. And that's it's a bit cynical when teams do that. But I wonder, and I'll ask you what your thoughts. Do you think that for a club like FC Cincinnati trying to have any type of association, even if they're paying a lot of money just to have them, come over and train there or something, is that something that benefits them, or is that something that just kind of speaks to this need for approval by these big clubs?
I have to say I'm conflicted about this because I do not like the idea of an outside club like a Barcelona, or I'll use like the PSG Academy of Montreal come in, and it's still up for debate what that academy is going to bring. It's still too early to see if there's going to be rewards or all that for the program and all that. But what I'm wondering is it just for cash? Is it just, for example, people to go to a clinic, give $300, they have a cheap kit with Barcelona on it, they train for one day with somebody that's type of related with the club, maybe somebody that's a cousin to an assistant coach of like the B team of Barcelona. He comes into town, he's like, okay, we're going to train like Messi trains. You get a jersey and you're done. Is that the idea, or is it done for actual soccer reasons? That's always why I'm conflicted. But when it comes to big clubs coming in your city, there is a bump. I don't have to look further than Montreal. Last year when Chelsea came into town and practice, even though it led for them to have the worst season in a long time, they still enjoyed their time in the Centre Nutrilait, the Montreal Impact training facilities, and the hotel facilities, and what the town has to offer in the summer. Real Madrid is coming into town, and already there's a big demand for Real Madrid players, and they're not even in town yet. So there is a bump locally when a team like Madrid or Chelsea or a Barcelona on this very this one. It's interesting to me that So for what reason are they going to come to Cincinnati? Is it to really help the market? Is it to help the team develop in the way they create and generate good players, or is it just to make a little money? That's always my questioning behind it.
Well, it's always debate. It's highly cynical of those clubs, and I've had people slip me information about what kind of appearance fees those big clubs charge, and I don't know how anyone makes any money off of it. I'll just say that. Like, there's no wonder that fans get gouged, because there's just no way you can do much more than break even with the appearance fees that they're charging. So, nothing comes free, and there's no impetus from Barcelona to like reach out to a club like Cincinnati and we'll get anything from them of value in their mind, right?
Exist.
Yeah, it's silly to think that. But anyway, I just looked at Jordan Morris's stats. He does have 5 goals now, so he has rebounded.
He was playing really well, good.
But, yeah, so, all fairness to him, and he'd probably well be the rookie of the year in Major League Soccer. Unless Mo Wabuli gets like 10 or 12 in the second half, which is always possible.
Well, assists maybe, but the way he's finishing, maybe not. Yeah, sorry to disappoint you, Duane, but he's not going to score 12 goals.
20?
Fine, sure, exactly.
There you go. Anyway, but nonetheless, he's not at the same level as Jovinko. He's not at the same level as Lloyd.
Laurent Simon, even like at the end of the year in 2015.
Silly. He's a good rookie.
Laurent Simon just played in the Euro. Granted, he was benched after his first mistake in the first game, but he played in the Euro.
Exactly. Yes. Anyway, that's where we want to go. My thoughts. I'm always, when I hear that, I have the same feeling as you. I cringe when I think that it's basically the yokels being taken advantage of. That's usually what jumps to mind. That said, I guess I can understand how it's their first year in the market. There's a lot of new fans coming to this. I know that when most MLS teams launch, they tend to go after a big name friendly for one of their first games. TFC played Real Madrid in 2009. The Seattle Sounders played like 7,000 friendlies in 2009. They played Chelsea. I know they played Barcelona. So I think that helps sort of get exposure for your brand. I hate that term, but for your brand in your market. And that might be part of what Cincinnati's doing. But more interesting to me is this idea that Cincinnati is emerging as a favorite to grab one of the next expansion slots, and that's something I didn't see coming a few years ago. But it tells you what rich owners will do. You have a rich owner, and then that can cultivate a fan base, and suddenly you move to the top of the line, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. In Cincinnati, well, it's all first season. We'll see if it's viable on the long term and if this is replicable next year. It's always easy. No, it's easier the first year because you get that brand new car smell, beginner's look type of attitude. People will give them a shot. It's if they come back the next year. That's always the big question.
All right. The other talking point, real quickly, because we do need to go to break and go to our games of the week, is that the Chivas Guadalajara, they signed a U.S. under-17 midfielder who was part of FC Dallas's academy. I'm not
one of the
try
best. Yeah, but one of the best in the league, the academy, by the way, of FC Dallas. So for that academy to lose a prospect, it doesn't bode well because that academy has everything you want for an academy, plus the impetus that the young kids are getting a chance. It's
the best academy in the league in my mind. I mean, it really is. And like FC Dallas is the one club that really does provide opportunity for them. But I think that this illustrates that even the best academies in Major League Soccer are prone to be poached right now because there aren't enough opportunities that pay enough for these kids to make it worth their while. So if you, like Guadalajara, can probably offer this guy a fairly decent wage to come down there and a good opportunity to play, because Mexico has a lot of opportunities for their under 21 players to get into action in under 21 playing leagues, right? I think that the USL initiative has been wonderful, but not every club does it yet. And Dallas, strangely, is one of the teams that doesn't have its own affiliate team, so like a direct team. And I think that's awfully odd considering the amount of effort they do put into their academy. But it does illustrate the need to constantly work towards making sure that you're giving these players an opportunity that will keep them around, because these academies aren't going to do any good if you just let them, hang there in purgatory at the end of their development cycle, right?
Exactly.
And again, this is Dallas' team that does give opportunity, but even in this case, they're still losing players. All right, let's take a quick break. Come back with the games of the week.
Hey, it's Kevin of the Sports Podcasting Network. On SPN, on top of What's the Score, the Sports News Quiz, you can find a plethora of great sports podcasts. Hardwood Radio, Gridiron Radio, Sports, It's in the Game, Scuderia F1, the second most listened to F1 podcast in the whole world, Soccer Today, live radio shows like Open Lines After Dark, MLS Postgame Show, Two Solitudes Soccer Podcast, Off the Woodworks, and much, much more. All that on the Sports Podcasting Network.com.
I hate MLSsoccer.com's layout, Kevin. I really do. Why does it make me scroll through all of June to get to the end of it? Anyway.
Yeah, and why do you have all competitions involved? I know you can choose your filter. Come on. We're going to MLSsoccer.com. It should have MLS schedule and not just Copa and everything else.
I should have went into my MLS Live. That actually is a better layout because it does jump to the day of. All right. Just getting to the games up here.
It starts, what a day tomorrow. We have the Euro coming back because we had a void in our live yesterday and so far today as well. But tomorrow it's back. And on top, MLS, a full slate of games this weekend.
Yeah, we should quickly review the two games that happened midweek.
True, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I had so many other commitments and so many other soccer this week that I did not watch the Major League Soccer games on Wednesday. But
and you missed one because there was three. So you have a Philly Union versus Chicago Fire, 4-3 for the Union. Salt Lake, New York Red Bulls, 2-1 Salt Lake. And the Galaxy and the Rapids, 0-0.
Yeah, Galaxy now winless in 6. So that's interesting. Colorado, kind of like that. They continue to sort of hum around there. That's a good result for them. Although, at some point in some time, we're going to have to decide whether the Galaxy are a contender or not, because they have not been having a great season. But then again,
they were good until that Montreal comeback. And since then, we all see what happened with the Galaxy.
Yeah, and the Fire.
Crackers.
Yeah, what are we going to say?
We-
RSL's
we-
having a quietly decent season too, and more pain for the East there. It's Philly top of the East, right? That's a strange thing I can't get used to. That's moved to the weekend.
Well, still the Leicester story continues in Major League Soccer with Philly.
Yeah, exactly.
But
all right,
we have to say though, we haven't seen the full ramification of the Vincent Nogueira exit. So maybe that will change the Philly situation in the upcoming weeks. One result is not indicative of what that void of a great player is going to be for Philly going on.
All right, I'll quickly just run down the games, and then usually what we do is Kevin and I pick. We usually talk a little bit about the Canadian teams because we are based up here, and a lot of our core audience is that, and that's part of our mandate. So we usually do that, and then we pick a game of the week. So quickly down the line, Seattle, New York, home team listed first in all cases. Seattle, New York, DC, New England, Philly, Vancouver, Columbus, New York, Orlando, Toronto. The Impact are playing Sporting, Dallas, RSL, and the Earthquakes in the Galaxy. That's your Saturday games. On Sunday, you have Portland, Houston, and of course the Copa games on the weekend with the third place game on. I love how they write U.S. men's national team as opposed to just the United States in here too. Why do we need that? But anyway,
yeah, and Colombia is not the men's national team; it's Colombia. But no, for the U.S., it's the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, so U.S., Colombia, and of course,
they're not sure
Chile on Sunday.
They're not sure if it's just men in Colombia. That's why they're just not taking any chances.
And there is this is an odd scheduling that they're going to. Well, is there anything up against? No, they haven't put anything up against the final of Copa, so that was smart. There is something up against the third place game, but I don't think. God, maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think that in terms of the Canadian teams, I'll let you talk about the Impact, but Vancouver. I'd be curious to see what their lineup is and how much priority they're going to put into this game with Philadelphia, not a conference rival. They have Toronto in on Wednesday for the Voyageurs Cup, only down the goal. Vancouver traditionally has not really valued that competition, but maybe they want to win it this year. Maybe they don't want to lose to Toronto at home, especially. So I'll be curious to see whether there's any squad rotation there. I don't think we'll get much squad rotation in Toronto or Orlando. Despite the win over LA, they had gone 4 games winless before that. I don't think they want to lose touch with the top of the East as much as they want. They view themselves as a team that should be competing for the top end of that, not the 5th place thing there. So I suspect that they will want to get the 3 points out of an Orlando team that they did handle very well, very easily last year. It was a team they dominated in all 3 games they played. Thoughts on the Impact Sporting, Kevin?
Well, those are 2 teams that have a very similar type of season. Great hot moments followed by losing or non-winning streak that is still going on for the Impact. They would like to take advantage of the rest situation they had and the return of Nacho Piatti at home, especially to get a victory. It hasn't been easy in Stade Saputo in 2016 for Montreal, and they have a team in Sporting Kansas City that's very similar to them. Montreal is on 20 points. Kansas City's 21 points. Montreal's 4th in the East. Kansas City is 5th in the West. For me, it's not a game to restart. But look, it was a break. Yes, they played last week, but for Montreal, it was on the road in Columbus. Now they're back home. They're unveiled this week their new training center, fully completed. Now they would like to show the world what they can do on the pitch in MLS with a full squad almost. Donadel, Toya are not going to be available, but a fully informed Didier Drogba. Same for Nacho Piatti. Still bothered by the injury, but he will be available wearing a cast. So for Montreal, I think it's going to be the rejuvenation of the Montreal offense with Piatti, and the balance hopefully will be made because they have been solid defensively in that Columbus 0-0 game. So if they can carry that defensive momentum they created with the addition of Piatti offensively, Montreal could finally get that win that's been so elusive over the last 2 months.
All right. In terms of the games of the week, my game of the week, and I'm going first because I have the schedule in front of me, Kevin.
Because you can. Sorry. Well, you can say you go first because you can. Fine.
Dallas RSL to me, I think is maybe the strongest game of this week. That's 2 really interesting teams. Dallas is a fun team to watch on any given day. RSL, as I said a moment ago, has been playing fairly solid this year, so that one should be a fun one to watch. Well, what's your game of the week, Kevin?
Cali Classico, 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday on Univision MLS Live. San Jose Earthquake at home versus the LA Galaxy. First of all, it's a nice little stadium. Well, it's not that little. It's a nice stadium to look at. One of the one of the newest in the league. So, and it's going to be a great game. The Galaxy will want to win, like you mentioned, 6-game winless streak. And they would want to take advantage of their big stars in San Jose. The Earthquakes are not necessarily having a great season. The Wondolowski is not. He's off and on depending on the season. Not sure if it's an on-season yet. Doesn't look like it. So we'll see how that Classico evolves, because it's always very interesting and entertaining games between those two. There's an actual relationship between the two teams. Players don't like each other, especially the ones that have been there for a long time. And I am actually looking for San Jose to create an upset and maybe pillow feet Adam John with a goal.
All right. I don't think Wando will be there, Kevin, because he'll be in the third place game.
Yes, exactly. Well, yes, but I mean, as a whole for the season, San Jose.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
But he's not going to play for the men's national team anyways. So.
Yeah. Why don't they send them back? Anyway, let's end the show with a little bit of talk of the Copa and because, of course, it is the weekend. And the real game of the weekend is Argentina-Chile. That is going to be a hell of a game, and I can't wait to watch that 8 o'clock on Sunday. But on 8 o'clock on Saturday, there is another game to play first. And I'm curious what your take on third place games are. And we talked to Herculez Gomez about it yesterday, and I thought his answer was very telling. Did you ever have a chance to play in a third place game as a player? I said to him, and his answer was, fortunately, I did not. So that tells you all you need to know about what players think of these games. Now, from a fan's perspective, at the World Cup, I've often enjoyed the third place game because I found it to be a very loose game, a very kind of open-ended game, because the players, they're still playing, because once the whistle blows, you're professional, and you're going to play with a little bit of pride, and you're going to want to perform, right? So it's not like they're not trying, but it is looser because they don't care if they make a mistake. They don't care if they give up a counter because they're attacking. It's a very attacking game often. So that's kind of why I watched that third place game on Saturday night, even though it probably doesn't mean much.
No, exactly. And let's not forget as well, tomorrow, the Euro is back. Wales, Northern Ireland, 12 p.m. Eastern. It starts with Switzerland, Poland at 9 a.m. and Croatia, Portugal at 3 p.m. It's just a crazy day of soccer. I know I'm going to spend my morning and my afternoon watching soccer, then Stade Saputo, then going back to the studio to watch more soccer and talk about it.
Yeah, I'll be at a friend's birthday party in the evening to watch the TFC game, and hopefully we'll get that Colombia game up, the Colombia-USA game up as well. All right, on that note, I'll say happy birthday to Maddie if you're listening, which you're not because she doesn't listen. But anyway, happy birthday. I'll tell you that on Saturday and buy you a shot. And in the meantime, Kevin, as always, you say goodbye.
Stay tuned to the Sports Podcast Network. Tomorrow, after the game at Stade Saputo between the Montreal Impact and Sporting Kansas City, you will have an off the woodworks with the post-game reaction from the coaches and the players, as well as maybe, if time permits, probably an MLS post-game show tomorrow night. And bonne Saint-Jean-Baptiste à tous les Québécois qui écoutent. Votre journée de la fête nationale aujourd'hui, notre journée de fête nationale. Donc, bonne Saint-Jean-Baptiste. And until next time on the Sports Podcast Network, have a great soccer. You were listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us, sportspodcastingnetwork.com.